Good morning. This is your 10 a.m. daily weather briefing. Continuing with some sunny conditions out there this morning. We have seen that breeze pick up a bit, seeing peak winds up around 21 to 24 miles per hour in the last hour, and also seeing those warm temperatures continue with our temperature around 72 at this time. Overall, expecting a next 48 hours of mild and breezy conditions out ahead of a front that would be pushing through the area tomorrow afternoon and evening, bringing just a low-end chance of maybe a light sprinkle, maybe a light shower, but nothing that will be too impactful. Overall, sticking with a fairly dry weather pattern for the extended forecast here. Take a look at the current surface analysis. High pressure and control over the eastern part of the country out ahead of the front, well off to the west. Tighter pressure gradient out ahead of that front. It's going to bring those breezy conditions over the next 48 hours, and as that front pushes through, that's what's going to potentially spin up those precip chances, but not looking very likely at this time. If we look at the upper level winds from this morning sounding, have some westerly to southwesterly winds through the column, seeing a peak of 36 knots at 1,000 feet, and then once again peaking up around 33 knots at 25,000 feet. Overall, 15 to 25 knots through much of the column, besides those low and higher levels. Seeing our freezing level around 14,100 feet. If we look at the current visible satellite, we can see those clear skies across the region, expecting that to continue through much of the day today. And as that front approaches for tomorrow, we'll start to see some increasing, mainly high clouds and then some mid-level clouds pushing through the area tomorrow. But overall, sunny conditions expected today, and we will see some unseasonably warm conditions through today as well. If we look at the GFS model here to see how things play out over the next several days, we see that area of high pressure slowly receding to the east, keeping some slightly breezy conditions through the area today and continuing overnight as well as into tomorrow. We'll see a decent chance of a wind advisory today as well as tomorrow ahead of the front. Then that front pushes through, and as you can see, as it approaches the region, much of the precipitation drying out, with mostly all models showing dry boundary pushing through the area, just keeping a low-end chance of maybe a light sprinkle, maybe a light shower, but again, not looking very likely, nor will we see much in the way of accumulation or impacts with any of that activity. As we move into Friday evening, the front will push through. We'll see those winds shifting more north to northwesterly, with just a slight breeze continuing and slowly diminishing as high pressure builds back in once again to our north, keeping things dry as we move through the weekend. We'll see temperatures fall a bit behind the front back to more seasonable levels that are a degree or two above average for this time of year. So still looking at very nice conditions as we move into next week. Still dry conditions continue. We'll see a warm front lifting through the area to our west. Looks like we'll miss out on any precip chances from that boundary pushing through on Monday, but so we'll see a return for some above average temperatures as we move through the beginning of next week and through much of the middle of next week, as well as once again continuing with an extended period of dry conditions and fairly mild conditions through the area, with possibly a boundary approaching late next week. But as you can see here, some indication that will dry out as well. So dry and quiet weather and some mild conditions over the next several days. Looking at the 24-hour weather risk chart for today, we'll see a yellow risk for those winds at or above 25 knots this morning. And then as we get into the afternoon, we'll see southwesterly winds 10 to 15 knots with peak gusts up to 25 knots during the afternoon, early evening time frames. So we do bump it up to an orange risk for those winds at or above 25 knots, so a decent chance of seeing a wind advisory through the day. Today we'll see our high temperature up around 78 degrees this afternoon with plenty of sun, mainly just a few high clouds around the area. And as we go into the evening, we'll see the breeze stay up but not as gusty. We'll see winds out of the southwest 9 to 14 knots, 10 to 15 knots through the evening time frame, and we'll see a gradual increase in some high clouds as that boundary approaches closer to the region. Otherwise, seeing temperatures cool down to around 64 degrees, which is actually our average high for this time of year, so well above average temperatures, unseasonably warm. Then we'll start to see things start getting a bit more gusty as we get past sunrise tomorrow on Friday. Seeing slightly below normal tides this morning Friday forecast, we'll see partly to mostly cloudy conditions as that front pushes through the area. Mild conditions out ahead of the front, as well as breezy conditions continuing. Good chance of seeing a wind advisory tomorrow, as well as we had that orange risk for winds that are below 25 knots. Do keep a yellow risk for that precip possibility with that boundary pushing through. Again, that ever-decreasing possibility looks to be a fairly light shower or sprinkle at most, so not expecting much in the way of impacts from that. And we'll see another mild day with a high of 77 degrees. Friday evening, we'll see decreasing clouds with a slight breeze behind that front with a low of 50 degrees. Green conditions for our weather risk. That continues into Saturday as we see partly cloudy conditions. Cooler and more seasonable with still a high in the mid-60s of 65 degrees, so still pretty comfortable for this time of year. Extended forecast here, we'll see a continuation into Sunday of what we see on Saturday with seasonable temperatures, low of 45, high of 65, partly cloudy conditions. And we'll see a mix of partly to mostly cloudy conditions at times as we move through the first half of next week with that boundary passing to the west. Overall, we'll see a gradual warming trend as that warm front moves through the region to our west. So seeing upper 60s for our highs on Monday, lower 70s for Tuesday, and mid 70s as we get into Wednesday. And we'll see our low temperatures starting off in the low 50s and then back into the mid to possibly lower 60s as we get into the middle of the week. So looking at a return of well above average temperatures as we move through next week as well. But overall, dry and pretty pleasant weather for the extended forecast here. That's going to wrap up the 10 a.m. daily weather briefing. We'll be back again tomorrow at 8:15 and 10 a.m. Enjoy the rest of your day.